Oh, so Joy's not here? Nope, Joy's not here?
No.
Okay. Is there anybody on Zoom?
What about David?
Okay.
He's in the hospital, actually.
Oh, no.
Oh,
He had a
gosh.
bad fall.
So do we have a quorum?
Yeah, with 4.
4 out of 6. 4 out of 7.
4 out of 7.
7.
Okay.
Wow,
Okay.
she's OP.
Oh, no, David.
I hope he has
That's too bad. I hope he heals quickly.
Okay, you ready?
Yes. All right, it is 6 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. If you would like to read the opening remarks.
Yes. Thank you, and good evening, everyone. Please silence your cell phones to minimize distractions during the meeting. When the chair calls for public comment, please approach the podium to indicate you wish to speak. Virtual participants should use the raise hand function to indicate they wish to speak during public comment. Once your name is called, please unmute and turn your camera on to provide your comments. And then the primary format for accessing or participating in this meeting is in person at City Hall. Virtual access to view or participate in the meeting cannot be guaranteed. The chat function will not be monitored. If you have any trouble, the meeting can be viewed on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. With that, I turn it back over to the vice chair.
All right, thank you. Are there any communications?
I do have one communication for you this evening, which is really exciting news after being closed for 3 years. The Kansas Historical Society has let us know that their grand opening is this Saturday with comments at 9:30, and then it will be open to the public that day. And as things go, things, tend to come up and change with the times. So they are off, since it has been 3 years, they are offering free admission to everyone through the end of 2025. So just
Awesome.
wanted everybody to know that the grand opening is this Saturday at 9:30, and there is free admission until the end of 2025.
Nice.
Okay, awesome.
Field trip. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any ex parte communications?
I attended a NAACP History Committee meeting yesterday, and partly because I'm a member of the committee. And there's other projects going on that I'm involved with.
But that doesn't affect anything on the agenda, correct?
No, it doesn't. I mean, because
Okay.
we just announced, it was announced in advance that the Rice Dowdell markers are on the agenda today, so
Okay.
that was it.
All right. Declaration of abstentions?
I am going to abstain from the consent agenda because we have a couple of projects from our office.
Okay. Committee reports.
We do not have any committee reports except for the information that is on your agenda item number 1 about the Rice and Dowdell markers.
Okay.
And staff will give you a briefing on that with that agenda item.
Okay. Item number 5, request to start the landmark nomination process for Central Watson Park and Constant Park.
Staff received a request from 2 people who live in the Old West Lawrence Neighborhood Association to start the landmark nomination process for what I always call Central Park, because that was its original given name, but it is Watson Park, and then also Constant Park. Watson Park is one of the, I think there were 3 originally platted parks for the city of Lawrence. The other 2, South Park and Clinton Park, are both already on the local register. And so it was time for Watson Park to join its Park Sisters and get some recognition. There is significant history for Watson Park and a lot of information. They will be writing a nomination. The way Chapter 22 is written, the Historic Resources Commission can adopt a resolution starting the nomination process for a property. The chapter requires that you try to make the most effort to get in touch with the property owner to notify them and get their owner consent. After the application request was received by staff, staff sent a memo to the city commission, and it would have been on Tuesday night's agenda, but it didn't get on the agenda. So the staff has notified the property owner, but we haven't received that owner authorization yet.
Okay.
So you have a couple of things that you can do. You can go ahead and initiate the process this evening without owner consent because you have made an effort to get the owner consent, or you can wait and do this at your December meeting. And then there was some additional information in the cover memo with this item.
Okay, so I must have missed something. Where's the private property owner in?
The city is the owner. So we notified the city commission is the one that will have to be the owner authorization for the listing. But since this goes back to the city commission because they're the ones that actually make the decision,
Terminologies.
they will, they will
All
get
right,
their
sure.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So is there further discussion on this, or can I move something?
So my question would be, do we feel like this is going to go forward? If we adopt the resolution tonight to start the process tonight, is that, I personally think we won't have any problem with owner consent.
Well, yes, the way the chapter is written, you can go ahead and adopt a resolution to start the process. With anything, and I don't know if any of you remember, the last park that we did was Hobbs Park and Clinton Park, and it does go through a lengthy process because the applicants will have to turn in the nomination form with all the history, and then staff will cull through that, and we'll look and see if we need to have a neighborhood meeting, or in this case, because Watson Park is more of a city park than a neighborhood park, it would be great to have a community conversation. Is this something that, the citizens of Lawrence are interested in or not? And so all of that, we can get a better calendar once we get started. But to start the process and get it on my wonderful list of projects to do, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, I would like to, get the process started as a resolution tonight, again, to get things rolling.
So do you have a motion?
Yes, I'm asking if you wanted a motion yet, or if we have, okay.
I have a question real quick. I'm sorry, I don't mean to just jump
Please,
in.
yeah, go ahead.
How does this, what will the effect be on a park being a historic landmark? Because there's the train and there's the gazebo, but I don't know if there's any other structures on those parks. So, well, I guess does
Constant has that limestone retaining wall.
Well, and also Watson Park is both north and south of 7th Street, so it includes the aquatic center. And right now, that parcel is already included in context review for the fire station. So that won't really change a lot, other than instead of using the design criteria in Chapter 22, we'll use the Secretary of the Interior standards when they apply for permits. Staff has reviewed no less than probably a dozen permits for the aquatic center over the years already, so it's never been an issue. In South Park is listed in the National Register and also the Lawrence Register, and when it became apparent that the steps that lead up to the bandstand were, I guess the nicest word to say is treacherous, and that people could not actually carry their huge musical instruments and get to the top of the bandstand. So the city worked with the Architectural Review Committee, and we designed stairs, and the stairs were built or the bandstand. So the change can still happen. It just goes through a public process for that change to happen.
You know,
Because the other thing I noticed is both Constant and Watson Park have city signs with descriptions and so forth of how early they are and whatnot. So would the signage change if they become landmarks?
No, not necessarily,
Okay.
but in the future, if we did some type of signage for historic landmarks in Lawrence, then they would certainly be eligible to update those signs with that.
Okay.
So Lynn, I know that the farmers market has been looking at locations downtown, and one of the locations they've been reviewing is that block of 7th Street between Kentucky and Tennessee, would be right in the middle of this. What kind of additional requirement for approval would something like that require? I know, so that's probably within the context area also of the fire station.
The the south half of the park is. So
Okay.
their current kind of design that they have already, that building that is on the aquatic center parcel would have to get Historic Resources Commission review.
Okay.
So if that is the place the farmers market and the city decide to put those structures in this, and we're going along the landmark path at the same time, ultimately, that's going to be a decision for the city commission, and they will weigh, historic aspects, farmers market aspects, community input,
Okay.
and all those things. And it just creates a community discussion on, what changes are okay for that park. Is it, is it important just that we're recognizing that part and it can change some like it already has
Right.
since its initial platting
Right.
with the original town site? Or, is that open space more important than the farmer's market being there and they should be somewhere else? So really, it's just going to create a community discussion. It won't stop the farmer's market from going there, but it will create a review, which half of it already had the review. The
Yeah.
criteria will change from context review design guidelines to the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines.
Okay.
Ready for resolution?
Is there any more questions or discussion? Nope. Motion, please? Or
I do still have more questions with this. Because of I guess I'm kind of confused as to the historic nature of the park, because it's just land and it's not a structure that's like dated. And the way that it's like originally platted is that it was left as, it was a creek that flowed through there. Yeah, it was a ravine, and like when you list a property on the historic registry, work has to be done to, if things have changed, to kind of bring it back to its historic.
No, it goes with what it is right now, and then any future changes get reviewed. So, for example, if you think about all of the Civil War battlefields that are on the National Register, or like I said, our Hobbs Park is on the Lawrence Register, and we're working hopefully to get a National Register nomination for that park. South Park is on the National Register, the Kansas Register, and the Lawrence Register. So parks are often put on historic registers to recognize their importance to the community's growth and development. And for Watson Park, there are quite a few things that are really interesting about the park, not the least of being that it was one of the originally platted city parks with the first plat for the city.
Okay.
Insignificant Quantrill Raid hiding place.
yeah,
I think it will probably, I know it meets at least one criteria for designation. I think there will probably be several.
Yeah.
When we get through with all the history.
Right, there's a lot.
I do have some concerns about Constant Park because it was created in the 70s and its history is more recent. I think there will be discussion whether or not it has achieved that historic significance. And so that will be another discussion for the Historic Resources Commission and the community.
If the HRC adopts a resolution to kind of start the process, would the application have to combine both the parks, or could it be two separate applications, one for?
It will be two separate applications.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
So personally, I don't want this to be seen, I mean, I'm in favor of doing this, but I don't want this to be seen as the Historic Resources Commission adding hurdles to an entity like the farmers market for what they need to do. Sometimes that happens, and I want to make sure it's clear that this is separate from that.
Yeah. Okay, ready for a motion?
Well, and Commissioner Hernley, when we get to the final recommendation, if the Historic Resources Commission does recommend listing, you can also recommend to the City Commission that they consider X, Y, and Z for the review or things of that nature. And then ultimately, the City Commission gets to make the decision whether to list it with different boundaries or not list it. And so it just, this just kind of opens up that community discussion.
Okay.
Quick question. So doesn't it still apply where if whatever the farmer's market wants to do, if it meets the guidelines,
Right.
it could be administratively approved and doesn't have to come before us?
It would have to come before you because it is new construction.
Okay.
So the way Chapter
Okay.
22 is written, staff cannot approve new construction.
Yeah, got it. Okay,
Is this an item for public comment?
That's up to the chair. Usually, we don't take public comment on communications, but if you want to start that community conversation now, it is certainly up to the commission whether or not they want to take public comment.
I'm inclined to, let's get it adopted and get the process started. There's going to be lots of opportunity for public comment. So I think let's just get the process started so we can start scheduling public comments.
I would agree.
Okay.
Sure.
Motion?
I move that we adopt HRC Resolution 2025-01 to start the landmark nomination process for Central Watson Park and for Constant Park.
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Okay, passes 4-0. All right, consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question about one of the items on the consent agenda. The last item listed for the project at 700 New Hampshire Street. I'm just looking for clarification on what this, on what's changing. This is to approve a site plan for the construction of of those row houses on that. This has come before HRC very many times. It passed at the May meeting, and I don't really understand what what's changing here for it to be part of the consent agenda.
There is nothing changing the way Chapter 22 is written. The site plan, which is a separate application process that goes through the planning department, also gets reviewed. So when the Historic Resources Commission approved the project, they approved the layout of the site with that project. And so when the final approval time came up for the site plan, which is a planning administrative review, it gets a historic review to make sure it's gone through the process, and what they submitted for their site plan matches what the HRC approved, so staff could approve it administratively.
I'll pretend I understand what you said.
I'm with Phil. I questioned that too.
It's just
For
process.
some reason, I was thinking it was the Borders building, but we're talking the row houses.
There's no change to the.
There's no change.
No, and that was the review, is to make sure that there was no change. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
Because the site plan document is what the code enforcement will use from the building permit process through construction, through finals, and then even in 6 years from now, if somebody complains there are no trees along Rhode Island Street, then the code enforcement can go out and with the approved site plan and say, you have to put these trees back here because that's to be compliant with your approved site plan.
Okay.
Whereas that typically would not happen in 10 years if they changed something that wouldn't require historic review, like the paint color or something like that. There wouldn't be an additional HRC review. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So, are you wanting to abstain from
Yes.
specific
I'll
ones?
just abstain from the whole thing.
Whole thing, okay, thank
It'll
you.
be easier,
Thank you.
much easier.
Okay, do we have a motion?
I'll move to confirm the attached design review applications according to the standards and information listed in the staff report for each application.
Yes, I'll second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No one? So it passes 3 with 1 abstention. Item number 2.
What do you mean,
So
item
this is public comment.
public comment?
C.
Oh,
We're on C.
yes, we are. Is there any public comment regarding something that's not on the agenda tonight? Anybody on Zoom have anything?
Yes, it looks like there is one.
Hearing none?
Oh, there is somebody who has raised their
Somebody
hand
raising their
also.
hand?
Samuel Carter, if you want to unmute and provide your comment, you can do that.
Thank you. This is kind of Samuel Carter 66046, and strange issue. It's kind of uncharted territory a little bit, I think. And I want to convey my respect. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I do know that the Historic Resources Commission is an advisory board. I also know that advisory boards are prohibited from directing city staff to do anything. Last month's public HRC meeting, the HRC adopted or moved to direct staff to take various actions. And I think it's not the first time that the HRC has directed staff to take action since I guess the advisory boards were kind of shuffled around in 2024. But it does just raise a lot of questions. I don't exactly understand what is going on, but kind of more concerning is that the city staff is being directed to take actions when there's but from as far as I can tell, no budget for the Historic Resources Commission. So it's really confusing. The reason, and I think a lot of this does need to be probably fleshed out, possibly by city attorney. I don't know like how an advisory board can direct staff to take action, particularly without a budget. I bring this up because last month there wasn't an opportunity to provide public comment for that agenda item. And also, I wouldn't want there to be further direction to city staff when that is expressly prohibited by our laws. And so, just for reference purposes, if you want to look these things up, ordinance number 9984 is the ordinance that created the advisory boards, including establishing the Historic Resources Commission. And then there are 2 other relevant resolutions that kind of for advisory boards. Hold on one second. They are Resolution 7258 and Resolution 7472. And I think 7528, let me pull this up, is the resolution that says that advisory boards cannot direct city staff to take action. So again, very strange. I mean, no disrespect. But this does not appear to be transparent with our, and kind of aligned with our values. And, you know, I think there's a lot here that probably needs to be unraveled. But moving forward, I guess I just respectfully remind the HRC of the prohibition against directing city staff to do anything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Staff will get with the city attorney's office and discuss this with them and bring information back to you. The HRC has a dual role. It is an advisory body to the city commission, and in that advisory body capacity does not direct staff. But HRC also has code authority to make determinations on projects, which is not an advisory capacity. It is a final determination with only the appeal going to the city commission. You also have your agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office. That is not an advisory role to the City Commission. That is the Historic Resources Commission approving projects. Again, an appeal by state statute goes to the City Commission, but it's not the HRC making a recommendation to the City Commission. The HRC actually takes action. So we will get with the City Attorney's Office because that may be a code conflict that we do need to address, and certainly that is something that we will look into.
Okay, thank you. All right. Public hearing items number 1. It's
Okay, so I feel like I ought to be over at Abe and Jake's in the 70s dance party because I'm so super happy about this item being here this evening. It has been a long time coming, and I will try to answer as many questions as I can. I noticed that Mr. Rice is on the call. And we'll certainly want to hear from him a little bit. I want to go ahead and say, before I even start the presentation, that if it weren't for Mr. Rice and for Steve at the Watkins Museum, I don't think this project would have come to fruition. Chris was very patient, and we went through many revisions, many rewrites of text, many different ideas, many ideas on location, and Chris has stayed constant and vigilant through the whole process, and Steve has done numerous mock-ups for the committee to look at and discuss. And so certainly this project would not be here before you this evening without those two individuals and without someone who is offering to pay for the sign. So with all of that, I'll go ahead and we'll talk about the signs. So they are two different signs, but under the Discover Lawrence History section, that verbiage is the same. And one of the things that the committee had talked about several times is trying to put in context what was happening in Lawrence and what was happening across the nation during this time period. And so someone else I would like to thank is Bill Tuttle, who is one of the best historians for the city of Lawrence and probably Kansas, wrote this text to represent what was going on in the country and at KU and in the city of Lawrence. And he did this for the community and did not charge the city for his information, and we want to certainly thank him for doing that. It's very important. And then each of the markers on the left-hand side has a photograph of the victim and then a little bit about what happened to them at this site. One of the exciting things I want to talk to you about is the QR code. Watkins has been gracious enough to host this QR code, and we have had so many exciting discussions about how we can make this a moving target and keep adding things to this online experience. And one of the things I'm really excited about that is we've already started talking about oral interviews with people who were in the police force or people, the families of the victims, you know, and even just people living in the community at that time, so that we have that oral information and how those people felt and what they thought happened and how it impacted them. So I think this is going to be a fantastic exhibit for the Watkins. It will be an online exhibit, and I will show you. Let's see. This is Nick Rice's marker. And then this is Rick Dowdell's marker. And your memo cover page explained who was on the marker committee. We did have representatives from both families on the committee so that they could okay the text and also approve of the photograph that we would use for each of the victims. This is where you'll find where that QR code is going to lead you and where we will add additional materials. It's just the watkinsmuseum.org website. You'll go here. This is their landing page. And one of the items you can choose is the Explore Online. And one of the first online exhibits that comes up is the Days of Rage, the 1970 curfew. And as part of that, even now, before this project, one of the slides in that online exhibit is about Dowdell and Rice and what took place. And so we will just keep adding to this. Hopefully you've all read all the articles in the Lawrence Times, and one of the things that the Historic Resources Commission had the opportunity to look at when this started was that Chris Rice, who is Nick's brother, wrote a very lengthy paper, and he did all the research, and he got a lot of the files from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. It took him years to put all this together, and he shared all of that information with us. I did ask him, because it's not copyrighted, if he was concerned about putting it on this site, and he said that he would be okay with it going on this site. So that really in-depth look at what happened to Nick will be a part of this when you scan the QR code and go to the website. This is what the marker looks like. If you've had an opportunity it's only been about a year or so ago, but the Historic Resources Commission recommended approval for the historic marker at the Digester, which is out just a little bit south of the parking lot at Riverfront. This is the same marker that we used for the Digester project. It's about 44 feet tall, and then you can see what it has around the edges. It'll be at a 45-degree angle, and it should meet all the accessibility guidelines for the Americans with Disability Act. This is the proposed location for Nick Rice's marker right here. There's a tree there. The actual event and death of Nick was not in this exact location. Staff chose this location for a couple of reasons. One, it's on the public right-of-way that the city owns adjacent to the city-owned water towers or tanks. We do have, the city engineer has signed off on the location. We know where all the utilities are. Those will be marked and reviewed again when we actually go for installation if this moves forward. The other reason was because this side of the sidewalk gets a lot of traffic, foot traffic, pedestrian traffic, with people going to the Union and the Alumni Center on different days, and people traveling from the Oread Hotel into campus. And so hopefully it will have the highest possible visibility in this location. And this X marks the spot, and you can see the parking lot over here. On the right-hand side, it's a very nice wide sidewalk, and like I said, hopefully it will get a lot of foot traffic and encourage a lot of investigation into this very significant event in the history of Lawrence. This is the proposed location for the Dowdell marker. If you'll notice, over here on your left is Massachusetts Street, and then on your right is New Hampshire Street. It's the alley where Dowdell actually was killed. To put the marker in the place where his body was when it was found would be in the alley, and it would not be accessible to many people, and most people would not even know it was there. So staff proposed to put it again in the public right-of-way on a good sidewalk where we have a lot of pedestrian traffic. And again, it would have that QR code, so if you wanted to dive in deeper, you can scan the QR code and it will go to what we hope will be a very good exhibit on the Watkins webpage. And again, X marks the spot where this marker would be on 10th Street. So staff is recommending that you recommend to the City Commission that the city approve these markers, the text and the design and the actual physical marker and the location for these two significant events that happened in the history of Lawrence. And the only changes that staff can foresee that might happen with these two markers from the design that you see tonight is a color banner at the top of the Lawrence history marker section, and then also when the company does the formatting for the text, it may be justified instead of ragged. So, you know, however, they have designers on staff that will make it look the best that it can possibly be. And so staff is recommending that you accept the committee's approval and make a recommendation to the City Commission, who is the ultimate decision maker on whether historic markers are approved in the city of Lawrence. And I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
Any questions, anybody?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. So probably ought to fix the typo under Nick Rice's information. Left-hand side, July 20th, 1970 should be, not 79.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
That's,
Yep.
That would be a big one.
that'd be a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah, so that. And then for Rick Dowdell, the photo, that photo is on the right-hand side, that's Turnholla, which is on, so this isn't the alley between New Hampshire and Rhode Island. This is the alley between Rhode Island and Connecticut.
Okay.
And it's looking
good.
south.
Thank you. That's a good catch.
And then I'm wondering about the location for Rick Dowdell's sign and whether being on 9th Street would be better. Because there tends to be more people walking on 9th Street versus 10th Street, but I'm not sure about sort of proximity to the exact location.
We did look at putting it as a committee on 9th Street because we were thinking the same thing. You have a lot more foot traffic going from downtown to the Arts District. The sidewalk there is extremely narrow, and there's not a lot of public right-of-way to put a sign.
Right.
And we were concerned that we just couldn't physically get it there to where it would be visible, where you could stop and read it and interact with it. And so that's why it moved down to 10th Street, because we had such a large piece of right-of-way to work with.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Speaking of location, for some reason, my memory says that I thought the location for Rick Dowdell's marker would be like next to, down from the Arts Center, where the old Salvation Army place is. It's now Taekwondo. Is that?
That's correct. That's the way it's shown. That's where it's shown.
That's where it's
If you go
shown
to-
right
yeah,
now?
If you go to the map, yes.
Okay, and so, yeah, I mean, so I understand choosing 10th Street just for, there is more traffic on 10th with the Arts Center being there and the parking lot across the street, and hopefully there, you know, it's a tough one because I know because his actual death site was more inside the neighborhood area. I have a history question. I think the Discover Lawrence History does a fabulous job of laying out the 60s and into the 70s, Kent State, et cetera. And then we get to the last paragraph, and it says, on July 16, 1970, a 4-day siege erupted. What caused the eruption on July 16? Like, what happened to trigger it?
And that's something you think we need to add to the
Well,
text?
it's a question I have. I know, you know, again, I'm not up on the 20th century, so I don't, it just raises that question for me. I don't know.
Okay, we can look at seeing if we can put a descriptor there.
Well, it could also be part of the QR code.
Yeah, something, someplace that you know, explains, because it jumps from May 1 to July 16, or and then May 4, you know, the other events across the country, and then this 4-day siege erupted on July 16. I'm just curious why. I mean, I know it's hot, and that helps trigger those things, but I'm just, you know.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And this would be a public comment.
Yeah,
item.
that's, I was just about to open
Yep.
it to public comment.
Exactly.
Any public comment on this item? I think Mr. Rice might have something.
Yes, I'd like to thank the Historical Commission for all of their efforts, and particularly Lynn's work on this. It's taken a long time. To not get bogged down with the verbiage on this, I think you're probably right that this, as the reader goes, they're wondering what started the 4-day siege. That was the day that Tiger was killed. But it could be fleshed out, I think, a little bit more. Anyway, it's taken us so long to get to this point. I am just thankful that we are actually getting there. And I hope to live long enough to see this erected. And so I urge you all to, with the possible exception of that last paragraph, to approve as recommended by the Historical Commission. Thank you.
Thank you.
I've got a question for you. Would you be okay with having the answer to that question about what started the 4-day siege as being part of some of the earliest content added to what's available online?
The QR code, you mean?
Correct.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
so I think it's clear when you look at the other sign. So Rick was shot on July 16th,
Right.
and that's what started the 4-day siege.
That's kind of what I
And
figured.
and Nick was at the end of that.
Yeah, That's how I understood it.
Right.
But if there needs to be more
Right.
clarity, we can
Yeah.
focus that on some of the earliest content being added to the website. So when they do use the QR code, that becomes more clear without having to make any adjustments to these actual markers that we would potentially approve tonight.
Yeah, because people are reading each of these markers separately.
Individually,
You know,
right.
individually, and that's why, you know, when you read if you're just reading Nick's, that's why I'm,
Right.
you know, confused with
Right,
what
yeah.
started the July 16.
I
So-
think we can probably add some, it's probably just a few words to try to.
Yeah, it doesn't need a
clarify
lot.
that.
We're out of space.
Because we're gonna have to change the photo.
right.
And things like that anyway. And so staff's question would be, do you want to make a recommendation to the city commission for the marker text with those changes? Or do you want it to come back to the Historic Resources?
I don't want it to drag out any longer.
But we don't want typos, though.
We don't want typos.
Right.
We need somebody
Typos are
looking for
something
typos,
else.
yeah.
And that's the thing, I don't want to drag it out, but I
Right.
also don't want to miss an opportunity to have final look at it before.
I do think it would be good if there was reference between the two signs. So if one sign said, you know, there's another one of these signs at this other location. or
Right.
Because not everybody's going to do the QR code.
Exactly.
I think that could be helpful. At least a mention of it. So,
I also think with these changes, I think I would like to see it come back to the commission, because I know that with the image that is on Tiger Dowdell's marker, with it being, I guess you said it's across the street, it's the wrong block, or?
right. Yeah.
I wonder if maybe they chose that image because they did not have like a photo from that time period of the location where he was shot, and maybe that's the best that they were working with. So
Possibly, yeah.
If I'd like to see, I guess, what the alternative photo is.
Yeah. And, you know, it's, when you're working with history, it's not unusual to run across conflicting information. And is it feasible that this is actually the right block, and the reference to the block behind the Art Center is not correct? I mean, I said the photo's wrong, but I don't know. I don't know how the photo was chosen. Maybe the photo was right and the text was wrong. Someone just said the wrong alley. I don't know.
I think
No?
the text is correct.
Okay,
and
all right. Well, that's good to
I'm not
know.
sure why Steve chose this photo, and he's out dancing right now. So.
Yeah.
But we
Okay,
will
that's fine.
make the corrections and bring it back for
Okay.
your final approval.
You know, because, I mean, obviously, the Jackson, what is it? The Jackson State College could, you know, you could have, you know, just snippets cut from other parts of the country to make room for just July 16 was the day that Dowdell was murdered, and that triggered a 4-day stage.
Okay, awesome.
Memory's telling me that it was the Kappa something house, the Black fraternity house on, was it Rhode Island? Africa, Afro House. Afro House.
Well, that's where they started the
Okay. And then
running
he
from, but
ran.
it was in the alley.
Got
where
it.
he was shot.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, we will make those changes and bring it back.
Perfect.
But there's other
Oh, yeah,
public
but go ahead and get public comment.
Yeah, we
so
need more
other-
public comment.
I'm Kerry Altenburn. I live on Forest Avenue. I'm here because of for my own talking. I'm not representing anybody right now. I'm happy that I'm as happy or maybe happier than Lynn is that it's finally coming to this point. It's not been 5 years, it's been 55 years since 2 young men were murdered by the police. And Lawrence is finally going to come up to that because I was overjoyed that Lynn used the word victims, talking about Rick and Tiger. Nick and Tiger, excuse me. I think tweaking the verbiage to make it a little more clear. If it's not clear to you folks, then it's not going to be clear to anybody else. And so that's good that you do it, I suppose. I'm sorry for Chris that he's going to have to come into another meeting. But it's something that's, these markers are at least as important as the lynching marker and the Margaret Vinegar marker, because this is Lawrence history, and it says to who we are that we're willing to bring it out and to say what really happened. So thank you, and I look forward to another meeting.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name's Katie Walsh. I live at 732 Rhode Island Street. I'm really glad you caught that it's the wrong photo. Thank you, Commissioner, for that. One of the things I really like about the location for the Rick Dowdell marker is it is very close to the Afro House. And the Black Power movement, had grown out of that house and out of Lawrence High. So I think it's appropriate. One question I have, I know there's a lot of oral histories being taken and all kinds of deeper things if you go to a QR code. How soon would that happen? Because there's a lot of things that are going to have a QR code and don't around history in our town, and QR codes have been promised. So I'm just wondering, how soon can we expect the Watkins to put that up? Thank you.
So I can just go ahead and clarify that QR code will automatically go to the exhibit that's online right now. So you can find out a little bit about the Days of Rage right now. So when the marker's put up, that QR code already has a landing spot. But that spot will grow. Our plan is to go ahead and get links to the Lawrence Times articles and the paper done by Chris. And we had a couple of other things that will be not very difficult to add to that online exhibit. And so those will be added as soon as possible. And they may even get added before we get the markers put up at this rate. But we have a timeline for that.
Lynn, is there going to be anybody kind of watching for those who put fake QR codes over the real one?
Oh, God.
Well, like most cities and historical museums and people who do historic signage, we really depend on the public to identify those. Because the markers, one of the intentions of putting it in the public right-of-way was that the city will do the maintenance on the markers, and so we would go out and remove that if possible. Mm-hmm. The marker type that we selected is really good deterrent for graffiti, and so that was one of the other things we considered when we were looking at marker types.
Perfect. Great.
Mm-hmm. Good evening, Commissioners. Dennis Brown of the Lawrence Preservation Alliance Board. This is one of those deals where everybody who's worked on it all over throughout time deserves a great deal of thanks. But LPA would like to add on a special shout out to Bill Tuttle for creating all of the written text for these displays. That's a really difficult job to do, and if we were going to go out and hire somebody to do that and pay top dollar for it, we would hire somebody like Bill Tuttle, and he did it for free.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah. Any other public comment? I'm going to bring it back to the commission for any additional, see a comma out of place or extra spaces.
And we will have our communications team do a proofread as well.
Okay. So for tonight, since we're going to make changes and bring it back, do we just defer? Okay. So is there a motion?
Can we have a motion to pass it now?
No. Well, you can,
good.
but, and we can take a vote on that, and then we'll make another motion.
Because I would recommend the city commission, there's another verb missing, review the attached marker text, marker type, marker placement for historic markers for Harry, Nick, Rice, and Rick Tiger Dowdell today.
So,
Tomorrow.
question about that. So, after HRC votes, whether now or later, for approval, does this go somewhere else, or is this it?
It goes to the city commission.
It does go to the city commission?
Yes, the city commission
Okay.
makes the final determination.
Okay.
Will there be an opportunity for these changes that we've discussed to be made?
Only if we defer it.
By
Come
us?
back.
Okay.
So yes, if we want to discuss the changes, then we would defer it. But if we think that the changes can be made and the city commission approve it, we could approve it now with the recommended changes.
Right.
If you want to see it again, you need to defer it.
Yeah.
Is what I can tell.
It is, I mean, it's been a long time coming, you know, and we could go over this with a fine tooth comb and find something. I don't know if it warrants it coming back to us. Lynn, I do see, looking through some of the digitized images that are through KU University Archives, I do see an image that shows, it's labeled as the alley where Tiger Dowdell was killed. I can share that with you to see if that would be a suitable alternative, or we can see if either KU or the Watkins Museum has another image that would be a better fit. But I think that that's a quick change, and then it can just kind of move on.
Staff
I do
would
agree.
probably recommend that it comes back to you so that you can see what the final marker looks like and all the typos are corrected, and you can have public comment. If people are not supportive of the new photograph that's on Dowdell marker or something like that, it's probably cleaner. It also gives the city commission time to review your information that you sent them asking for their owner authorization. So it may be most appropriate to defer it tonight and get everything super squeaky clean, and the HRC review it in December.
Okay.
So we do have a motion on the table. Is there a second? Hearing no second. Now what?
Motion fails.
Okay, motion fails. Is there another attempt at a motion?
I'll move to defer this item to December.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
I'm going to say nay, just because I want to get
Yeah.
it going.
3-1.
Yep.
Okay, we're on to miscellaneous items.
Nope, nope, one more.
Oh, wait, yeah, number 2, yeah, the text amendment. Duh. I don't have glasses, so it's kind of hard.
I'm going to try not to go too deep, but this is not something you see very often. And so I want to make sure that I'm giving you enough information for you to make a defensible decision. We had an application for an amendment to the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. And the way that process works, when an urban conservation overlay district is created, it's a two-pronged process for the review, with the ultimate decision made by the city commission. So the role of the Historic Resources Commission, if you read that in your agenda packet, is to look at, number one, whether it meets the criteria for an overlay district, which this amendment does not propose to change anything that would change that. But you're also responsible for recommending the design standards that go with the overlay. This proposed amendment would alter a design standard for District 1 to allow for duplexes on existing vacant lots. And so I'm going to take you on a little trip. Way back when we did the original neighborhood plan, and on the screen is where the Oread Neighborhood Overlay District is within the city. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see from the Oread Neighborhood Plan where the planning boundary was. And this is in your staff report. This was actually between the plan and when we adopted the design guidelines. This map changed a little bit, but this is showing the plan for where the different districts would be. Because Oread is a great neighborhood, it's got a lot of diversity, but the interesting thing about it is it has some clearly defined areas with different characteristics that when we were doing the Oread Neighborhood Plan and the design guidelines, the community thought were important values to preserve. So specifically District 1, which is the area from Illinois to Arkansas and between 9th and Fambro, was District 1. And this is a unique area in the Oread overlay because when it was designed for single dwelling units or, just normal family houses developed in this area. The lot sizes were the typical city lots, the street trees and the sidewalks and everything that developed in this neighborhood was on that scale. It was a scale that had side yards and front yards and rear yards with garages. And so when we went through the Oread Neighborhood Plan and then again with the design guidelines, and I think it says in your memo, this was like a 6-year process. It was really important to try to find guidelines that protect that character, that visual character of those small houses on standard lots with that rhythm. And so in the Oread design guidelines, there are specific things for when you're doing something that requires a permit from the city to help maintain that character. So the actual beginning of this, the amendment was proposed. If you remember, you looked at a demolition permit for 901 Missouri Street. It was a triplex, and it was on the verge of being condemned by the city because of the deterioration and the condition of the structures. And so that lot is vacant. And the applicant or owner of that lot wanted to construct a duplex. And by the new land development code that went into effect on April 1st, in this zoning district, they could build a duplex. However, the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines are on top of the zoning, and so they take precedent over what the zoning code allows here. In the existing verbiage in the Oread Design Guidelines, it states that you have to have a lot with a minimum of 7,260 square feet to be able to construct a duplex. That number came from the 2006 development code that required so many square feet per dwelling unit. That's where that magic number came from. And so the intent was, again, to keep that scale and massing and development characteristics of the neighborhood by not allowing demolition and construction of new larger units that would support duplex. Or if you read the rest of that section on page 80, combining lots to do bigger structures. So the original request from the applicant was to take out the requirement for the 7,260 square feet, and also to strike the last sentence in that paragraph that would take away the requirement that you could not combine lots in this district for higher density structures. The other thing that the applicant proposed, and staff had talked to him about this, was changing the word duplex. Our new development code that went into effect in April does not use the word duplex anymore. It's more of a housing type than a descriptor for a 2-unit structure, and so now the development code uses 2-unit dwelling. And so the applicant proposed, as long as we're making changes to the guidelines, let's update the terminology so there's not confusion. What is a duplex? What is a 2-unit dwelling when you're using both codes? So you'll notice in the attachment that was on your agenda item throughout the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines, we were recommending to strike the word duplex and replace it with 2-unit dwelling. So staff started the review. The City Commission initiated the text amendment. Staff started the review of this, and one of the things that we quickly decided at the City Commission, and then also as staff started the review, was that we really needed to have a neighborhood meeting, because this document took so long to get to where it is now, and before we open it up and just start making changes, we really needed to get that community input. And so we did have a neighborhood meeting, and we had a fairly good turnout. We had lots of good discussion, and one of the things that came out of that neighborhood meeting, the applicant was there with the property owner, and they contacted staff after the meeting and requested to change their request for the change to the design guidelines. And so what they are requesting now is just to take out that part of the paragraph that says a lot having a minimum of 7,260 square feet, and to leave the restriction on combining lots. So staff started with this request from the applicant, their revised request, and luckily we have a lot of this information in a digital format from all of the meetings that we did when we did the plan, and all of the meetings that we did when we did the design guidelines, and looked at the character of the district, what the community said they wanted to protect in that district, and then also looked a little future forward that, you know, part of our city-county plan is to increase density, and to do that increase with infill where we already have existing infrastructure. And so trying to balance this with the existing neighborhood plan, Plan 2040, and also the design guidelines. So what staff came up with was to strike the word duplex and put the 2-unit dwelling in there, but to add that the development provisions of the 2006 Land Development Code, a lot having a minimum of 7,260 square feet, can maintain the ability to construct a 2-unit dwelling. And then we added a sentence that said vacant lots that exist in District 1 on the adoption date of this text amendment may construct a two-unit dwelling in accordance with the standards in the Land Development Code, April 1st, 2025 edition, and the applicable guidelines of this document. What that does is it allows a vacant lot to take the current land development code that would allow a duplex on that lot, and so that this property owner could build his duplex with it not impacting the goal of the neighborhood plan and the design guidelines, but it would allow for greater density in the neighborhood. So staff did an analysis that's in your staff report looking at if the City Commission were to adopt this, how many parcels in District 1 would this affect? And so there's a map in your staff report that shows those parcels. And one of the parcels that this would affect has already been approved by the City Commission to have a duplex. And so that was one of them. The property that started this path toward doing an amendment to the guidelines was one, and there were two other parcels. One of them is the parking lot that is used for the HERE project now, and then another one was a lot that has a small, it's not a small house, but like a single dwelling unit, but it's a combination of 3 lots. And so because of where the structure is on that 3 lots, they could separate 1 lot and build a duplex on it. So staff looked at this as not a significant impact to the overall character of the district because the new construction still has to meet all of those design guidelines for new construction in District 1. So your role this evening, and I know you all did it, was to review the existing Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines and get a feeling for what their purpose was. Like I said, these guidelines took a long time to come to fruition, and there is very good description of what we're trying to protect with this overlay. So then you should look at the proposed text amendment on page 80 and the changing of that word duplex. Then you should review the language proposed by staff. And then you want to take public comment and determine if the proposed language impacts or changes the intent of the adopted guidelines. And at the end of the day, what you will be doing is making a recommendation to the Planning Commission and the City Commission as to whether or not this change to the design guidelines, not the overlay district or the plan, but just to the design guidelines, impacts the ability of the design guidelines to do what their purpose is, and that's to protect that character of District 1. So staff is recommending that you look at the proposed language from staff and find that it is consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive plan. That's Plan 2040 that I was mentioning, the Oread Neighborhood Plan, and the intent of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. Because the proposed change to the development and design standards for the overlay district, District 1, will still allow the character of the district to be preserved, but it will allow some extra density on those few lots that are currently vacant. And that new construction would have to be compatible with the overall character of the district and meet those new construction guidelines for District 1. And I would be happy to stand for any questions that you may have. Yes.
The meeting that you all had with the neighborhood residents, what do you know the date or when that was?
I would have to look it up, yes.
I'm asking, I'm trying to, there are some attached comments at the end of this application, and it's hard for me to understand if they're referring to the original amendment or the revised amendment?
Those comments we received for that neighborhood meeting. The only current comment that you have on this, I believe tonight, is from the Lawrence Preservation Alliance. It has the date on it, I think.
Okay, yeah, that one is dated November 17th. The others are September, October. That
Right.
were before the meeting. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
I think the meeting was October 10, is that correct?
Those comments were the city commission came up with the city commission.
Okay.
Oh, see.
The comments that are attached here are for the October 10th City Commission meeting.
So Lynn, currently what's in place talks about in the design guidelines, combining lots into larger parcels not appropriate except as allowed in Chapter 5B. Are there statements regarding splitting lots into smaller parcels?
No, there's no prohibition of that.
Okay. So I guess I don't understand how removing the required square footage only affects 4 lots. I mean, if there's not a required size, what's the minimum size? Is this a R2 district?
This is R2, no, this is R3, I
Okay.
believe.
And what's the minimum lot size in R3?
To have a 2-unit dwelling would be less than that 7260. So under the development code right now, if there was no overlay, the property owner for 901 Missouri could build a duplex, or a 2-unit dwelling, sorry. Under the 2006 code, he could not have built a 2-unit dwelling because he would not have had the lot area to support 2 units.
7260.
The 7, yeah.
Okay. So the size of lots are kind of a standard lot in the neighborhood is closer to 8,000, is that right? Or
No, I'd have to go look, and a lot of them have had some changes over the years, but I believe they're the standard 50 by 117 for the 5850 lot.
okay.
I'd have to go back and check
Let's see.
the plat.
Right. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. So the atlas doesn't really give very.
And so one of the things, the reason staff was proposing to leave the requirement of that 7,260 square feet, you can have the ability to construct a 2-unit dwelling. There are lots in District 1 that have 7,260 square feet or more that would maintain the ability to build a duplex if something happened, 2-unit dwelling, if something happened to the structure that's on them. You could not tear down your structure without going through the Historic Resources Commission.
So currently, can lots be that are larger, can they currently be subdivided and create 2 lots that meet the minimum lot size requirement to build a 2-unit dwelling? So there are some lots that are like 2 lots that have already been combined. So it's just 1 lot, but it's a big lot. Can those now be split already to
Yes.
create 2 lots?
Yes.
Okay.
If they meet the requirements of the Land Development Code. The
Okay.
Oread Design Guidelines do not prohibit splitting the lot. It's just the combination for higher density.
Gotcha. Okay. So in essence, it's removing the 7260 and going to the R3 minimum size that was 6,000 something.
Yes, that was the applicant's proposal.
What she's proposing is retaining the 7,260.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't print off the. Lynn, could you put back on the screen the list of the, yeah, there you go, that one. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for staff or discussion amongst the commission?
Well, I have more things to discuss, but I'd like to hear public comment first, I think.
Okay. Thank you.
So we will take public comment.
Chairwoman, is it okay to hear from me first?
Yes, he's the applicant.
Still public.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. So Lynn, awesome presentation. I'm going to try not to repeat everything. We could talk about this stuff a long time, but she is exactly right. This all started with 901 Missouri. We have a client, a well-respected developer, purchased a triplex that had been condemned. We spoke with planning staff, and in our minds, we were promised that we could demolish it and build a duplex, or as now we all know, is a 2-unit dwelling. Our mistake, frankly, was tearing it down before we had a permit approved. But all we were asking, and where all of this started, was to build a 2-unit dwelling on that property. What stopped it is exactly what you're hearing, is the 7,260 square feet that is now required, that one sentence in the Oread Design Guidelines. That condition was unexpected. As Lynn has already mentioned, we initially applied for the text amendment, and we did cross out the sentence about combining lots. The neighborhood meeting, you're exactly right, it was October 10th. I remember it because it was a Friday at 4:30 at City Hall, which you don't have a lot of meetings at 4:30 at City Hall. But anyway, that you know, especially with the study and looking at the number of vacant lots, that combining them really is not an issue. So as you saw in an email we sent, we were happy to take that off the table. The Land Development Code does allow for 2-unit dwellings in this area on a standard 50 by 117 lot. We still feel that that should be the case, and it should be based on the Land Development Code, and the design should be reviewed by the HRC. But again, this is about 901 Missouri. That's our client. What Lynn has proposed accomplishes that. I know that many of the people that are worried about what might happen in this area would certainly rather her language than what we proposed. I do wonder if we're making a mistake about not allowing more density. You know, sometimes we worry too much about what's going to happen. I just don't see a bunch of people adding on and building a bunch of more duplexes. Parking, if it comes up, is still an issue. Our clients still know that people want to still be able to park a car, so filling a lot with a lot more building doesn't necessarily solve that problem. But again, this is about 901. We are happy with Lynn's language. It allows for some improvements on a few of the vacant lots in the area. And I think that's what we're here to discuss. So look forward to your support, and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant before we move on? Okay. Yes, sir. Public comment?
I'm Kyle Thompson. I'm the chair of the Oread Residents Association. And my wife and I moved into the Oread in
in 1988, and our house is on the National Historic Register. I also marched after Kent State, so when I was a freshman at KU. The Oread neighborhood has become denser for 100 years. The Oread Design Guidelines have helped lower the friction between landlords, developers, and residents over the last 9 years. My joke has been that I've attended fewer meetings in the last few years than I had to before. The guidelines allowed reviews by Lynn rather than a prolonged process for approval. My other joke is that we may not have always liked the architectural results, but we get porches. I think that Oread has become denser without drastically changing the architectural character of the neighborhood. Because of the demographics and future government financing changes, there will be fewer students in the near future. I think that density should focus on family-friendly development rather than student-oriented development. We advocate maintaining the character of District 1 in the text amendment. I think the alternative language assuages our concerns about combining lots for much higher density, residents not in harmony with the prevalent housing styles in the district. I think it encourages a gentle density, which I think is in keeping with the goals of the LDC. And as an addendum, this is zoned R3, and the R3 maximum lot size permission references the original town site, which there's no map of the original town site in the LDC, and it's hard to find what that is. And some of this area is in the original town site, and I think that should be corrected in some way. Thank you.
My name's Mike Delaney. I've just come from the Watkins deal next door. I'm not mocking you by wearing this 50s outfit, this 70s outfit. I sent a letter that sort of outlines our position with respect to this. We very much appreciate the work that staff did in taking a conservative view about making changes to the Oread guidelines. Our view, I think both as the LPA and as a resident of the Oread neighborhood, is that these overlay districts serve some of the same purpose, or at least they're perceived that way by the neighborhood, as neighborhood covenants, except that they're public. And they ought to be dealt with the same sort of conservative approach. That is, you don't change them unless you go through the same elaborate process that it takes to construct them in the first place. Moreover, the first question that I asked when the public meetings about the new land development code were, what will the impact of the land development code be on neighborhood guidelines overlay districts like the Oread? And the answer, was there won't be any impact. Those guidelines are going to sit on top of the code, and if the guidelines are more restrictive than the new code. And I think that took a lot of concern away, a lot of pressure off the neighborhoods in thinking, well, wait a minute, we now have to look at every corner of the neighborhood to see whether or not the new density guidelines are going to have an impact in here. And so the only suggestion that we make is that there not be any more new vacant lots created between now and the time this process comes to a close. And that's why I proposed that we use tonight's date as the date on which the vacant lots eligible to have two-unit structures created on them would take place instead of waiting to some future date. And that may be a belt and suspenders sort of thing anyway, but it was the same concern that we raised with respect to some of the other neighborhood where historic surveys were underway, is to not do anything to encourage demolition of additional structures in order to create the opportunity to build two-unit structure. So, thank you.
Thank you. Marcy Francisco, 1101 Ohio. You may also figure out that I was at the Watkins celebration. So I am here in support of both the work that Lynn Zollner did after listening to comments at the meeting about the text amendment, but also the letter from the Lawrence Preservation Alliance. So I think that one thing the Historic Resources Commission can do through your review is try to say, how do we keep what was in existence until a change is made? And in this case, instead of signaling that someone has a certain amount of time, in this case, they would not be able to build today. They would not be able to, or combine lots, and I know that that's out of here, but they would not be able to build on a duplex on this size lot unless this change is made and unless the property is vacant. So the idea that we put today's date in that agreement is a signal that we are actually trying to deal with what is the situation that we all understand is happening now. It's not something anyone could do, but it also doesn't send a signal you have an opportunity to tear down property and be able to build a larger size. So very much appreciate your being here and appreciate your consideration. And along with lettuce, boycott A and B.
Thanks, Marcy. I do have a question for staff regarding any date changes. Because the final approval would be city commission, wouldn't the date need to be the date of the city commission approval and not today's date?
I don't know.
That's why staff proposed the date the ordinance goes into effect.
Okay.
Because it would be challenging to have a previous date that's not adopted.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's what
But
I'm asking.
We can check with legal and see if that's something the commission is interested in.
I have a knee-jerk reaction that could slow down this process if we have to go to legal and wait for all that. Correct? Like, am I right in that assumption?
If you want to hear the response from legal, then yes,
Okay.
you would have to defer it.
Okay.
I did not read the land code, okay? Because it's just ridiculous. Is there any language is there specific language in the land code that says neighborhood guidelines shall take precedence over this code?
Yes.
So why are we here?
To allow this property that's vacant to build a duplex.
But see, my perspective is that we could go on and on and on with future examples. We could have who knows how many demolitions by neglect in the Oread neighborhood in the future, and people saying, oh, we need to change the land code again, or we need to do this, we need to tweak the language, we need to, change rental to 2-unit dwelling. I mean, to me, those are picky. The language, the rental to 2-unit dwelling, I think, is a very picky situation, okay? I'm more concerned about ensuring that the Oread neighborhood maintains family residences and not more student housing in duplexes or 2-unit dwellings. I'm, again, very concerned about lots being, there's a fire. Oh, well, heck, we had a fire, so of course, and the fire happened to, catch fire on the lot next door. So yeah, we'll just build, 2 duplexes that have a walkway in between, with, or whatever. I mean, I'm just, imagine the possibilities are infinite, I think. And I just do not want to see any more as long as neighborhood guidelines take precedent over the land code, I think that's where it should stay, period. That's my position.
So, Lynn, is there any process through Board of Zoning Appeals for a particular lot when it's relative to
No,
a guideline?
because in the Land Development Code, under the Urban Conservation Overlay section, it specifically states that the Board of Zoning Appeals has no jurisdiction over properties in the overlay. So if an applicant, for example, wanted to have a reduced lot size or reduced setback, they would have to come to the Historic Resources Commission for approval of that plan rather than the Board of Zoning Appeals.
So what is the area of the 901?
I believe it's
Alabama?
5850.
Okay. Can we check, is Paul still on the line? Do you know, Paul?
I am here, yes. It's a standard 50 by 117, 5,850 square foot lot.
Okay.
Can I address some, the previous commissioner's comments real briefly? That I understand all those scenarios that you just mentioned, but I don't think any of those really change what this does. I mean, the reworked language, and Lynn, maybe you can comment so everybody believes everybody, is that this affects 4 lots or 5 that are vacant in District 1. That's all. Even we worry about all the fourplexes that nobody likes. If they burn down, they get to build a single-family residence because they wouldn't have been vacant on this date, and they don't have the land area because they don't have 7,260 square feet. So on one hand, those might be the people that ought to be worried, but they're not here. And I'm worried about my client who, again, tore down a condemned structure from, not the best developer, landlord. And we like to think he should be able to build a duplex back. And the new language allows that.
And staff would just kind of follow up on that a little bit. Any demolition permit would have to come to the Historic Resources Commission if the structure is over 50 years old. That's in the guidelines, so you would see that. You would also see any new construction that would have to meet those design standards that are in the guidelines. So this doesn't change any of that, and if there is no encouragement in the way this statement is written because you put that adoption date in there to tear down an existing structure in the hopes of building a duplex, because it would be after the adoption date.
So, okay, I have a question then. So I'm confused as how it affects 4 lots and not just 1 lot, because there's of the 4 that are highlighted, only 1 is smaller than 7,260.
Where the heck is it?
Right, if you, let me pull that up and I can.
Where is it?
So if you look at that map, the one at the top along 9th Street
Yes.
is the lot in question.
Right.
If you look at the one that's at the corner of 10th and Alabama,
Yes.
no, Arkansas, I'm sorry.
Yep.
That house faces, it's kind of catty corner, and currently that parcel includes 3 lots.
Okay.
So the structure encumbers 2 lots. So there's a 3rd lot that's 58 by 50, 58 50 by 117.
Okay.
That
there is.
if they separated it, could take advantage of this.
But, I mean, there's already a sentence that says, lots shall not be created or modified to accommodate the construction of duplexes.
Right, but you wouldn't be modifying the lot, you would be modifying the parcel. So you have a vacant lot that
Right,
is the
but-
third lot up.
But on the city's map, that's shown as one parcel. It's not
one
three
parcel,
lots.
but it's 3 lots.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the legal description of it. Sinclair's edition, Block 1, lots 13, 14, and 15, combined in 1988. It's a single lot, combined in 1988.
No, the legal description combined the 3 lots. It didn't change the 3 lots. It's still 3 lots. It never went through a process.
That's
take
correct.
away
It's
the-
probably, I don't know that. It's been combined by the county, not technically through like a minor subdivision, which is the same reason we could do the duplex at 10th, 11th and Main, because it was 2 lots and we were just alternating a lot line, but we were not creating an additional lot.
So that's really confusing. I mean, it's on the city map as it shows, it's one rectangle.
That's the
Because it's
parcel.
probably the same ownership, and so the county combines them on their own, which
For
is a
tax
little different
purposes.
than what than you're talking about.
If you turn on the plat layer, Commissioner Hernley, you'll see that it's 3 lots.
Thank you.
And that's the same situation. I don't remember the number of lots right offhand, but that's the same situation with the vacant parking lot at 11th or Fambro.
Right. So in that scenario, that house on Fambro is sitting over the lot line because the house is on the east half of that rectangle.
I would have to pull up the plat and show you that recently got replatted. I don't think the plat has been filed.
Okay.
But it's gone through the process. That is the one that the Historic Resources Commission said that could not build a duplex because it was changing the lot to get the square footage.
Okay.
That went to the City Commission and they approved that change to allow the construction of that duplex.
Okay.
See, the other elephant in the room is that the District 1 is right next to the KU Gateway. It's dangerous.
But it can only affect up to 4 lots.
4 lots are 4 lots. I'd rather see 4 lots go to family, for family residences.
So the other one is there. Illinois.
Could you pull up the slide with the action, like the language for a motion? It was the last slide of the presentation. Thank you.
Oh, it's on the other side.
It was the last one, the review.
No, it's this one.
Oh, this one?
Yeah, this is what I wanted up.
Oh, I wanted the other one. I can't get to it.
Oh, the roles?
The list of review HRC role.
If you need that back, could somebody?
Do you want to put the rolls back up instead of the
Sure.
recommendation?
Sorry about that.
So the lot that's at the corner of Fambro and Illinois, that appears to be a single lot.
That's a parking lot.
That's a parking lot now, yeah. Yeah. So how does this affect that lot?
Let me pull it up real quick.
So a duplex could be built on that one lot, not subdivided. Okay.
Do we need more time for further analysis, or?
Hang on just a second, and I'm going to get for the parking lot.
Gotcha.
And you are correct, Commissioner Hernley, when they did that for the HERE project or thereafter, that is just one lot now.
Okay, so that was platted. Okay. So
Just to chime in on that lot, that's also still owned by, it shows up differently because of the HERE project, but HERE only leases that lot. It is owned by NKU Endowment.
Okay.
So that changes their ability to do something down the road anyway. But
and just from using the codes on a regular basis, having statements that refer back to a defunct development code, the 2006 Land Development Code, really throws a wrench into researching what can and can't be done on a particular lot. I mean, so it's, I don't know. I have no problem with a duplex going on at 901 Alabama. It just seems like we're going through linguistic jumping jacks to try to get there, and I don't know if that's the best way to do it. Is it the only way to do it? I don't know.
We did research if there were other alternatives, and we're not able to, come up with anything else.
I mean, can we?
And the only reason the 2006 reference is in there, because that statement is in the existing design guidelines. We
Right.
added the 2006 so that it would not be confused
Yeah, I understand.
with what we have
Yeah,
now.
I understand, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm fine with doing this. A year from now, after the duplex is built, I'd recommend we come back and fix the language and get rid of reference to the 2006 Land Development Code, because it just throws a wrinkle in that, I can just imagine somebody reading that 10 years from now. It's like, where am I going to find a copy of the 2006 Development Code? And what were the rules then? And how does that relate to what I want to do now? And I mean, if this is what it takes to be able to develop on that lot, it sure seems like we could come back and clean it up later. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? It's like
Well,
it's like this convoluted thing.
Exactly. I say leave the Oread guidelines alone and do not change the language.
I think at the very least, we need to change duplex to the 2-unit dwelling to start removing some of the confusion, so that way at least the land development code is having the same definitions of things. So it's more one-to-one. Regarding this amendment, I believe what staff is proposing is appropriate. I prefer it over what the applicant originally proposed. Do we need to retain the 2006 date in the current amendment, or is that something we could remove with this?
The purpose of that is the original statement in the Oread Design Guidelines says lots presently platted and meeting the requirements for a duplex developed under the provisions of the Land Development Code. Staff put the 2006 in because we have a new Land Development Code that went into effect in April 1.
Okay.
So they don't have to meet today's code, they have to meet, if they had that ability under that 2006 code, the changes that we're making don't take that away. So if you had a 7,260-foot lot in existence today, you could build a duplex on it. Of course, you'd have to go through the process and everything, but you would have the ability to build a duplex. We're not trying to take that away from property owners. We're just trying to massage this a little bit so we could get just a little bit more density, which the property owner is requesting, and not change the character that the guidelines support.
Right.
So if I'm understanding right, there's, instead of 4 lots, in reality, it's only affecting 2.
Oh, I kind of.
Because the 2 on Fambro are, the one at Main and Fambro has already been split, north and south, and that lot that was created, isn't it 72?
Yes, it's large enough. So you are correct. It would only be 901 Missouri and then the property that's at the corner of 10th and Arkansas.
Okay. Okay. So it's those 2.
I do agree with you, Stan, that this text change is really splitting hairs to allow for these 2 specific, I don't know if it's a lot or a parcel, so they can have a dwelling. But I would be fine with adopting this language, but it has to be reviewed again. Because this paragraph, as it is with the recommended changes, allows for the development of like that 901 Missouri place, but it may add unnecessary complexity to future development.
And in all honesty, the lot that's at 10th and Arkansas, I mean, what would be the harm in splitting off the the north lot and building a house or a duplex on that. The house that's existing would still be on 2 lots.
But you wouldn't be able to build a duplex on that lot the way the code is written and the design guidelines are written today.
Right. So we're allowing 1 duplex, and then we're just eliminating.
And then we would allow, if they wanted to, they could build a duplex.
So what would be the effect if the language changed to just correlate with the land development code now, and the limit was, well, it's 6,000 square feet. That's the problem. They have a lot that's 5850, and the land development code is 6,000 because it's 3,000 square feet per unit.
The consensus from the neighborhood with looking at it that way is that that would allow an increase in duplex development in this district. Because there are, if you can build a duplex
Got it.
on that size lot, that is smaller than when we did the guidelines and the plan.
Yeah.
That we were thinking, trying to keep that character of the side yards and the front yard and the rear yard.
I think it definitely needs to retain the 7260 language.
Okay. I mean, I don't want to be smart about it, but I mean, couldn't the language just say that here's the rules for everyone except for 901 Alabama? And they can build a duplex?
Missouri?
Yeah, 901 Missouri.
No.
I mean, it'd be saying exactly the
But
same
that's what we're
thing.
doing.
It is.
That's what we would be doing, is we're making an exception for 1 property.
And potentially 2.
Or 4,
Well,
however you're defining the 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. It would be much more concise that way and probably a lot more helpful for those who.
When you're looking at zoning code and design guidelines, restrictions on property, you can't single out and give benefit to one property that you're not giving to other properties of the same situation.
Right.
That is illegal.
I understand.
Yeah, I
Well,
know.
And that's why, again, I'm repeating myself, that the Oread Neighborhood Guidelines should take precedence over the land development code.
They
and
are.
Leave it as
They do.
is. Leave the language as is what I'm saying. Not make any changes to the language.
Well, are we ready for a motion?
Sure.
Anybody want to go for it? It's on page 71 of the 348.
71. Oh. Huh? Which one? Oh, you're looking at different pages than me. Sorry.
Yeah.
You want me to put it back on the?
Yes, please. Sure. Yeah, that might be faster. Yes. Just while we're waiting, I do want to say I really appreciate everybody's work on this, especially staff. I think you came up with a really good compromise that really does protect the intent under the design guidelines.
All right. I will move that the proposed alternative language proposed by the staff is consistent with the city's adopted comprehensive plan, the Oread Neighborhood Plan, and the intent of the Oread Neighborhood Design Guidelines. Is that one motion, or?
You can do it all in
Okay.
one.
The proposed change to the development and design standards for the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District, District 1, will still allow the character of District 1 to be preserved while allowing some additional density that must meet the new construction guidelines to help the new construction be compatible with the character of the district.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
Passes 3-1. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
So now we are back to calendar.
And I just wanted to point out the big change in the calendar for 2026 is that we have scheduled architectural review committee meetings. So it gives the members of the ARC and applicants an idea of process time when they're looking to do development applications. And so you will see those on the far right-hand side. And other than that, it is the third Thursday of the month at 6 o'clock here in City Hall, unless we have something come up and we have to make different arrangements. And you would adopt this calendar by motion.
I move we approve the calendar for 2026.
Can I chime in real quick? Hate to ask, it's public comment, I think. In March, your meeting is in the middle of spring break again, which, I don't know, seemed to be a problem last year. I think it's as much of a problem maybe for the people on the commission as it is for some of us, but just wondering if that can go, and Lynn, you know more than me with the deadlines, can that go the week earlier or the week past? I think would serve everybody a little bit better. Just a thought.
Yeah, the challenge with that right now is that we could not find a meeting space that would accommodate changing that week. We have been slotted for the third Thursday and very protective of that slot. But now that the City Commission room is used for not only court, but many other commissions, we couldn't find a way to switch that. So as we get closer to the date, if it looks like it is going to be a challenge, we can always try to find a different location or time.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Passes 4-0.
And thank you for putting the Architectural Review Committee onto it.
Yeah, I
Very
think
helpful.
that's a helpful addition
Save
for
us
everybody.
400 emails.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Oh, real quick, not that we had miscellaneous matters, but if you want to hold up the book.
Oh, yeah.
So hot off the press, just arrived today.
All right.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Volume 3 or is it a
It's
new
volume
updated
1.
Volume 1,
It's
okay.
Volume 1 with